That fixed it. Amazing. Well, speak of the devil, because I'm like, oh, hey, I went live today. I've just had some technical difficulties of late, but looks like we're back in business. Sorry if that was a loud pop for y'all. But I mean, that's kind of what the beginning of the stream is for anyway. All right, perfect. Dragon, I think you're the only person here to catch that error, so good job. There we go. Thank you. Alrighty, so I'm gonna do my last final little checks here, and then we'll get rolling and talk about what we're gonna do today. I don't know why unplugging stuff and replugging it in fixes 99% of problems, but I'm not gonna complain. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're having a lovely, what is today? Friday. And I'm really excited to work on this. I kind of had time to simmer on this raven I started a couple days ago that I didn't like because I was trying to modify it from this eagle head and that wasn't working at all. Turns out they look really different. Crazy. So today I'm going to be working more on this. It already looks much better. I thought I was going to have to restart from a sphere today, but it looks like I did a really good job in the last stream. Good job, me. I don't remember doing that. I grabbed even more references because it turned out some of my references were crows. Kind of embarrassing. In my defense, I just put my faith into Google and I'm like, okay, Google, show me ravens. And it showed me crows. What are you gonna do? A really good resource I like to use when I'm looking for references, especially of animals, is looking up taxidermy because taxidermists know the difference between a raven and a crow. So that was very helpful. I'm going to show you guys some of my references I have pulled up here. This is, I think, AI goop, but I thought it was fun, AI goop. And then these ones down here are actual ravens, which, I mean, there's a lot of tells between ravens and crows. The big one being this little fluff they have that comes down their beak, which I think is really fun. And then again, they're very side-facing eyes, and it's incredible how flat the top of their head is to their beak. Goodness. I really rely on the expressiveness of kind of like hawks and owls have almost like this brow ridge. It's really dramatic. And apparently that is the only landmark I'm able to rely on when sculpting birds. So ravens don't really have that to the same extent. So that's partly why I struggled with this one. But not a problem. I have a new poll going right now, just asking if you guys play tabletop games. And if you do, I'd love to know which ones that you guys are playing. And then Dragon mentions, don't forget their fabulous beard. Oh, I know. They have so much under fluff, too. I'll make sure to make that pronounced. Alrighty, I got my timer going. Let's get rolling. I'm going to keep these pinned up here to some extent because they're fun. Just so we have a reference of where we started. Where is that eagle head? There it is. Just a reminder of myself of what it should not look like. Do a little side view here because I want it to look substantially different. Got that. There we go. Because I already have the space mesh done and complete. So this next piece that I'm working on here, I really want to be substantially different. And then I'm also going to be slowly piecing together this entire body. Currently, you can tell the proportions are all over the place. We're just focusing on the head for right now. So we're actually going to hide these pieces. And then I do have some references of the body and proportions for later. This underfluff right here, I can go ahead and just Dynamesh right from the get-go. So we're going to work on this for an hour, and then we'll kind of reconvene and see where we're at. So notice I'm going to be working really, really low poly here, and that is key. The more polygons that you have, the blobbier and lumpier your model will tend to be. The less polys you have to work with, it's just easier to manage. Simple as that. All right, let me scroll down here and let's start taking some closer looks at my references. All right, I got 2 of them pinned on my left screen. Let's get to work. As Dragon mentioned, don't forget their lovely beards. Let's go ahead and start constructing that. I'm taking my move brush and I'm just kind of pulling underneath. That really does make a big difference. Thank you, Dragon. I'm happy with the eyes I have here and these eyelids I have blocked out, but the head shape and the beak shape are looking a little more toucan. Let's pull these upwards. And we're also going to zero mesh this with half turned on, making it lower poly than it is. Currently we're at like 3,000 points. We really don't need to be that high. I'm going to lower my adaptive size. That means that it'll be less strict to keeping those edges. Excellent. And this bottom beak here does not have that under curve. So I'm taking my smooth brush and just balancing that out, and maybe a polish by features. Right now, I'm not really too worried about small volumes like the nostrils or stuff like that. I'm really just focusing on the outside shape. So my references here, I can see that this is a really long, flat beak. So the top is really flat, and so is the bottom. This bottom part is looking better, but the top part is actually going to be darn near level with his head. So let's go ahead and fix that. So there's 2 ways I can do that. I can bring this beak up. Also bring the head flatter. It does look better. I'm always surprised at how pushed forward eyes are on birds. Let's stretch that forward, touch more. And again, it doesn't really have as much of a like spike on the end as like hawks and eagles do. This beak here is actually 2 separate pieces, and that just kind of gives me more flexibility as I'm kind of carving out this shape here. And then the beak terminates right before the front of the eye. So I'm just kind of like grabbing different landmarks and cross-referencing them as I work. I'm going to be doing zero mesher a lot as I work through this. There we go. Already a much stronger start. Reminder myself that beak terminates right before the eye. So I'm going to bring this fluff forward. And then we're going to add some more volume underneath here. Really keeping that, bringing that beard out. There we are. There's still kind of like this toucan shape here. I think it's because, I mean, in some angles it actually looks quite good. I think it needs to be a touch narrower. There we are. You'll see me change views a lot here. There we go. There's really not much taper on the bottom of this. Dragon says, see, you're doing great. Thank you, I appreciate the encouragement. The last time I worked this on stream, I don't know, it was like, well, my expectations were totally off. I thought I could just take this bird head and modify it, and it's definitely deserved having its own fresh model. I'm gonna be really happy to have this in my asset library once I'm done. Here we are. Well, goodness, this isn't gonna be as hard as I expected. I really like hyped myself up for this, and we're like, this is going great, but we haven't gotten to the body yet, so we'll see. I'm confident I can do it. It just might take some time. So as we're starting to refine some of these shapes here, we have like these primary shapes are looking pretty good. So for all my students here, just people interested in the process, I keep I'll pick like a piece of anatomy and use it to measure it across the model. So for humans, I use like heads. Everything's in terms of heads. Like how many heads tall is the model, heads wide, that kind of thing. In this case, I like using either the eye or pieces that are relative to each other. So I'm looking at the beak and then my reference here. So I want to look at, here we go, the size of this top piece of the beak to the bottom piece. And it's about 1 to 2, which means I'm saying that the bottom piece of the beak here is half, or the top is double. Either way is true. Fractions. Alrighty. So let's go ahead and implement that. This is looking pretty accurate as is. Something I like to do is just duplicate the model here so I can kind of play with it. And I can move things around to directly measure it, kind of test my eye. So that's double. So I can see that the bottom beak actually needs to be thicker. And then doing this kind of process just over and over and over again, that's how you develop your artistic eye. Just the key is that when you look at it and you think, oh, that's about this, make sure you actually measure it. That's why like in movies and TV shows, you'll see when artists are doing stuff, they'll like put their arm out and put their thumb in front of them. They're actually using their thumb as a measurement, and that's what's happening there. The more you know. All right, let's grab that and then stretch. Oh wow, that helps a lot. Well, cool. Alrighty. Now I'm paying more attention to how the very end of the beak happens. We actually have like this wedge shape here, which is kind of interesting. I'm looking at right here. So it's completely flat and then it kind of peels up like a trapezoid. Let's go ahead and do that. Speaking of shapes and whatnot, I met my husband in geometry, freshman year of high school. Fun fact. Also, even funnier fact, he wasn't even supposed to be in that class. Wasn't exactly a fantastic student, but his algebra teacher from middle school put him in that class anyway because it's like, hey, I know that you're smart and you should be in this upper division math. And it's funny because it led to us meeting. All right, so I'm happy with the shape here. I'm gonna make sure I'm really making that sharper transition clear. These are the kind of like small details that really end up mattering. There we go. It's looking very Raven. I can even make this shape a little more confident here by going with trim dynamic and flattening it out, or using H polish. I think H polish, yeah, that does the job a little better. Let's go ahead and pinch that beak a little more. Beautiful. All right, I'm really, really happy with that. Hey, Wolf is here. Good afternoon. We were working on this Raven and making screen in progress. Actually, it's gone quick. You can click back to the beginning of the stream and see the blob we kind of started with. It's already made some really, really good improvements. I'm gonna pull more of this texture out to kind of achieve this fluffy feathered look. And now I'm gonna look at some more secondary forms here. So we have this head, the beak, things are roughly proportioned correctly. Now I need to start looking at the distance from the eye to the back of the head, and then some like divots that are gonna show where the skull is laying underneath. So there's a concavity beneath the eye right here. And again, I don't know any of this. I'm looking at pictures. Always use references. I'm amazed at how often it comes up that using references is cheating. I mostly hear this from non-artists, but sometimes I hear it from new baby artists that feel like they can't look at things to learn how to make them, which is psychotic. Please use references. Use as many references as you want. And then grab some more. So yeah, there's a concavity right here, and there's actually this really pretty shape that kind of pulls off. It's like the size of a quarter. I'm gonna exaggerate that right now using my damn standard brush. There's like this, kind of this arc here. It kind of rounds out like a $half shape. This is kind of where some of the artistry comes in, where I take something that I'm observing and then I push it and I exaggerate it a little bit more. And it really has this really nice curve that comes from under the eye too. Yeah, it's a nice shape. It's like a little teardrop. I didn't know that was there. To be fair, they're blacks, and I guess I haven't really been close enough to a raven to really observe it. There we go. I'm going to bring forward that brow bone just a touch more. And they do have a more prominent brow bone than I expected. So again, I'm going to be carving out that shape here. I'm really focusing on just adding and subtracting volume, simple as that. But a reminder to my students that are watching this live or rewatching, I got my big shapes first. So the squareness of the beak, the proportion of the head, you know, like you don't dig in to find like the eye socket until these big shapes are done first. And then Wolf asks, what is a shortcut for making groups that you use for separate parts, like the back separate from the feathers? There's two ways that you can do this. One, you can use subtools. Let me pull up my stream so I can watch it and make sure you guys are seeing what you need to see. Okay, so on the very far right of my screen, here, right there, you'll see these little doodads here. These are subtools. These are all those different pieces. To create a new piece, you come down here and click on Append. And you pick any of these base shapes to start with, like a sphere. So bam, you have a new piece like that. Or something else you can do alternatively is you can have polygroups within a subtool. So I have this beak right here, which you can see down here. This right here, that is the beak. And you can tell I have it selected because it's colored. You'll notice that the top of the beak is green and the bottom is yellow. These are different polygroups. So if I click on one with Control-Shift, it'll show just that one piece, which is really nifty. To make a polygroup, all you do is mask a section using Control, and then hit Command-W. When you do that, it changes the color. You can do as many polygroups as you want, and select all these different pieces. So yeah, the more you know. Either is totally valid. I like to use a combination of using subtools and using polygroups within the same subtool. Really good question. Dragon says, can you imagine if they treated medical students like that? Using model organs and pig organs is cheating. They would work on live patients. Yeah, exactly. That's why references for artists are so important. Maybe like the ethics of that, like don't do like a vivisection, you know, which means a live autopsy. Wolf says that is really helpful. Thank you. You're super welcome. You know, it's funny because I've taught a couple dozen students over the years, probably closer to 50. 3 of them have actually gone full-time to have their own careers as artists, which I'm very proud of. I don't get tired of explaining like the mundane things, like the nuts and bolts of a software, if you will. There's something about it that I find really satisfying to convey these topics as clear as possible. So just know that there's no question they'll think that it's too basic. I really, really enjoy teaching, and every time I explain a concept, whether it's subtools or pieces or whatever, I get a little better at it. So feel free to ask. Oh, I also have kind of like a fun donation goal today. Instead of doing like 5 donations of any monetary amount, it could just be $1. I'll stream for another hour. Today I've replaced that with every time someone donates, I'm going to change the model that I'm working on. Just kind of like a fun little thing. Well, kind of like I was on an improv team when I was in college, and there was a game we'd play that was just like switch. So you're doing a scene, and then someone, like the guy who was directing our team, he would say switch off camera, and you have to completely change the scene that you're in based on the position you're in. So it was fun. I'm kind of trying to implement some of my improv stuff from college into my live streams. Something fun. Alrighty, let's keep on going. So now I'm building up the volume of the chest. I'm actually really proud of the shape of this head. My husband's working on at the desk next to me. We're starting to try to toy with how you can see his screen too, because he's currently rigging my models in Character Creator 4 and posing them. And I know it'd be fun for you guys to be able to watch both of these things at the same time. We haven't done that quite yet, but I'm gonna ask him if he's watching. Hey honey, are you watching the stream? Ricky. He's got his AirPods in so he can't hear me. I yelled at you.
You did.
I muted myself so I could get his attention. Do you see the stream? Do you see the raven I'm working on?
Yes.
Look how much better it looks.
All right.
I know, it's looking very raven. I'm really excited. I thought this would be a struggle.
I like it. Yeah, I have to have you on noise canceling because I'm listening to the stream, but I can't listen to you talk and the stream. So I have to block you out.
That's beautiful. Anyway, Aloha's here. Hi. Hey guys, hope everyone is good. Looks like it's burp time. Yes, it is. This is going really, really well. We have this raven blocked out, and I'm going to move on from the head now and move on to the body. For people that are new, I sculpt requests on Patreon, and this one is an Eldritch Raven, but I've been sculpting for 5 years, and my initial raven was really outdated. I recently did this eagle that looks great, and so I tried to modify that to make the raven, and as you can tell, they look nothing alike. So I needed to create from scratch, and I'm really, really proud of this. And a reminder of my students here, do you see how low poly this is? This is barely any points, and it's not very detailed, and it looks great, you know? Details come later. I think it can be really distracting to new artists when they're designing anything, whether it's drawing, sculpting, painting. They want to dig into the details because when someone compliments your work, they never say, wow, nice forms. That's well proportioned. It's always like, wow, the detail in the hair, or like the raindrops on feathers. You know, it's always tiny things that people appreciate, which is great. But as an artist, remember, it's the meat and potatoes. It's the big shapes, the fundamentals. That's what makes your piece sing. No one likes just icing. Wolf says, oh no, the bird's going to attack him and has his AirPods in. All right, let's get this body blocked out. I'm going to scroll down to a new reference here. Oh, and a reminder for people that are joining in too, I have a poll running asking if you guys play tabletop games, so TTRPGs, tabletop role-playing games, which is just anything from like D&D, Pathfinder, Starfinder, Gloomhaven, all that good stuff. Warhammer as well, even though it's more wargaming, there is branches of Warhammer that are more just like classic tabletop role-playing games. I also would think it counts if you play video games like Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous or Pathfinder Keymaker, even Divinity Original Sin 2. So let me know if you guys play any of those. I've always wanted to get more into Pillars of Eternity and Divinity as far as video games go, but I usually get burned out on them. I'm not sure why. I don't play very many video games, or not video games. I play lots of video games, but not very many TTRPGs in person. But that's just because I moved across the country. So the group that I was playing with, we've all kind of, not like grown apart, but you know, life gets busy, you know? So I haven't found a new group here in Tennessee quite yet. Which I don't mind, to be clear. I am more of a solitary person to some extent. Introvert isn't quite the word, because I'm not shy. I just kind of like to do things by myself. As my husband can attest to. Alright, let's get this body blocked out. Alright, so I have this base here with the rough proportions. I'm gonna just kind of squeeze this lump. The legs are much too far back. I'm just gonna Dynamesh this whole thing, and we're gonna shape from here. I think it'd be easier if I kept the legs as their own piece. It's a pretty vertical slope. And then the tail kind of juts out. But I'll make the tail its own piece as well. I have some pretty nice detailed bird feet that I made a long time ago. They look so extremely detailed compared to this low poly model right now. Alright, and then I'm also going to add some spheres here to define the legs, because you don't really see bird legs, you just see like these little feathery blobs. So I've added these spheres here, and now I'm going to shape them into the leg shape. Also, these legs are much too thick. I do that mostly for 3D printing reasons, but just for aesthetics, I'm going to thin them up a bit. Also turning off perspective to make sure they're flat, and it also makes my job a little bit easier. Let's scrunch them up. Looks really funny. Just finding the shapes and proportions, yeah? Alright, getting there. Wolf says omnivore is what I've been told it's called. Yeah, that makes sense, kind of like omnivore. Aloha says, also guys, a great lesson for Mia, by the way. That initial struggle with the Raven we had at first required a fresh look and restart from the Eagle base we tried out. Don't be scared to revamp a model. Very, very well put. Hey, Mikey's back. Hi, welcome. Mikey says, how many minis do you make a month? Must be a crazy amount. I really should know this off the top of my head, but I really don't. I would say like 20? 20-ish, I think. I've made as little as 5 before and as many as like 40, but that month I made a lot of scatter terrain, and I'm really, really fast at making scatter terrain. So I would do more scatter terrain on the channel, but I don't get that many Patreon requests to do terrain, so I don't do it as much. I enjoy it though. So you'll notice I'm coming in here with trim dynamic and really kind of just simplifying these planes into like blocks. And I do that when I feel like I'm not sure where the form is going, just to simplify things. Yes, I'm happy with that. Cool, so we have a clear rib cage bump here. Legs are well connected. We have a little bit of a problem here where these accidentally merged into one piece. So to fix that, all I have to do is mask one side, close it, and then mirror and weld. There we go. You don't want to have those merged together. You're going to have problems later on when you try to pose and detail. Alright, that's looking pretty good. I'm going to shorten this up a bit because I'm going to make the tail its own piece. There we go. Alright, let's go ahead and pin a tail on the Raven. Might be a little too early for this, honestly, because there's some silliness going on with proportion still. I'm also going to remove a lot of these small feathers. We all like details and feathers and whatnot, but this tail here is quite short and bold. There we go. That's going to suit this model better. All right, making progress. Mike says, wow, that's so many. And hello. Yeah, I've gotten a lot faster over the years for sure. All right, we're starting to carve out space for the wings. However, this leg placement's wrong. And this slope is wrong. So I'm just looking at my references off camera, and really just a game of spot the difference. You know, it's incredible, but to all my students that are just kind of hanging out, or just prospective artists that are hanging out in the chat here, spot the difference games are one of the best things you can do to improve your artistic eye, I swear. So the reason why I'm really waiting to add the wings here is because wings are impressive, right? Wings look good and they really cover up problems. If I can make this model look good even without any wings on it, I'll be sitting in a good spot. Alright, the head is a bit too large, so we're going to start merging down some of these discrete pieces. Like the eye right now is 3 different pieces. We have the top and bottom eyelid and the eyeball, but I have them all just in the same subtool polygroup now, so I'm not losing anything that I can't undo. But what this will do, it'll allow me to very quickly change proportions. I would say the head is about 10% too big, so let's reduce it. There we go, much better. I could also go to Transpose Master to achieve this, but eh. Dragon says he looks a little stubby at the moment, doesn't he? He just looks like he was just kind of like stepped on. We need to start elongating, making the head smaller, that kind of thing. Alo says, also guys, if you leave your low poly, I see someone saying a bunch of hearts, cute. Also guys, if you leave your low poly blockout phase too quickly, then you gotta go into timeout. Take your time. I agree. All right, let's kind of stretch this form out a little more. Really bring out that chest. And then not losing that like rib cage bump, which is kind of like a key feature here. Something else I'm missing is that this body here isn't tapering, and it should. There we go. That's looking better. He looks very off balance with his wings, which is understandable. All right, I'm pretty happy with this. Something that I'm missing on the legs is that other little bone. I might need to add that in. Let me go ahead and do that. So birds have a joint right here that flips the other way. And not much of it's visible, but when it's not visible at all, it looks really odd. Just a little bit shows. That'll make my life easier if because I guarantee this isn't the last raven-like model I'll be sculpting. There we are. Just have to know that it's there. I'll go ahead and merge that down to the feet. And scrunch that up. And then return this little feather blob. There we go. Yeah, that little ankle needs to be visible. There we go, that's looking much more accurate. Perfect. I think it's about time to add wings. There are some tapers that I'm missing underneath here, so I'm going to go with Trim Dynamic and kind of just find those planes really quick. That's better. A lot of subtleties with birds. That's why I tend to avoid them. Alright, cool. Beautiful. Alright, we're 30 minutes in here, and I'm pretty happy with the results. I think it's time to add some wings. And I want two different options here. I want wings that are going to just lay on the bird, and then some that are outstretched too. We're going to use these and these. And I can tuck these in under that big kind of like fluffy chest that has. All right, I'm gonna go with my move brush and start forming these to the body. I'll just use my transpose line to stretch these forms out quickly. There we are. You can kind of see now why I waited so long to add the wings, because they obscure so much of the body, and it's easy to hide behind them. They really are quite long, and they sit towards the top of the tail. Yeah, the tail is pretty wedge shaped. So make sure it has a bit of that taper. Excellent. And then we can go ahead and mirror the wings. All right, so now we got two. Beautiful. All right, that's how we're looking. His legs are a little long, but actually, it's about accurate looking at my reference. I'd say this is looking really nice. Thank you guys for being here and for the support. Dragon says, warning, if I work out the money, you'll be making chickens all year. Wherever the market goes, I guess. Aloha says, looks great. Thank you, Aloha. As if my family is not confused enough by what I do. If I was just sculpting chickens day in and day out, I'm like, this is what the people want. I don't know what to tell you. Just taking a moment to admire this. This was a lot more relaxing than I expected it to be. I thought it would require a lot more intense brain thought, but I guess when you've been practicing for 5 years, eventually it starts to come a little more naturally. Yay! Aloha says chickens. It's what the streets demand. And then John Sherkery is here. I think that you're new, so hi. John says, is the pirate guide in the thumbnail a dragonborn pirate? Oh goodness, that thumbnail is so... that's already finished. Yes. I'm sorry that's the thumbnail. It's not supposed to be. Oh, YouTube. So there's a preset thumbnail that I can choose for YouTube, which is what I've been doing. And every now and then it kind of glitches out and it shows stuff that I made months ago. But yeah, that was going to be a monk, actually. It was a Dragonborn Drunken Master monk. It's a newer class. So that model was a lot of fun. Also, hi and welcome, John. Wolf says, very, very good, very bird. I agree. So bird. Dragon says, I need them for my fairy garden. I've had people that specifically requested models for that, so it's funny you mention. Also, John, I'm glad you commented on the thumbnail. I did not realize that was the case. It's not the end of the world. It's just not what I'm working on. That stream is logged on my YouTube channel, though, if you want to watch that. Well, at this point, I'm going to get this ready so that it is a lower poly base mesh that I can easily recall and put into my asset library. As of now, just the wings alone are 640,000 points, which is way more than I need. So we're going to zoom in, look at these, and let's see how low we can go. John says, that's really cool. Thank you. I love what I do. I really do. Burp. All right, that's already looking nicer. And then I do a subdivision check to make sure it's not too low resolution. I guess we don't need this eagle head anymore, guys. I think we succeeded in our goal. Okay, so let's kind of back up here. The whole point of this model is to make an eldritch raven. So I needed to start with a real raven, and now I can start to monsterify it. I'm not really sure how I'm going to do that. So let me take a moment here. Everything I make here is a request on Patreon. So people give me money on Patreon, I get to pay my bills, and make art for a living. It's a pretty cool win-win. If you're interested in being part of that, that's linked in the description and the message at the top of the chat. But someone requested a Eldritch Raven specifically. They named Bird. Bird is an eldritch being from the far, far realms who've been bound and compacted into a miserable 3-dimension form due to pack magic from a warlock. So it's a very unwilling familiar. So I might like hide some more eyes on its face, kind of like a spider, and that will give some that eldritch. I'm also thinking of adding some maybe like black smoke ooze in between the feathers. So that's kind of the ideas I'm toying with right now. I just needed to make a raven in the first place so I could monsterify it. So yeah. You guys are being really sweet in the chat. Thank you. I'm glad that you like it and think it looks cool. Especially because we don't even have any of those like fancy ooh and ah worthy details right now. We just have a really nice, confident base shape, which is my favorite, honestly. That's the bread and butter of what's difficult about my job, is doing this stage specifically. The details are easy. The details are like adding icing to a cake, which though it also takes skill, it's not as punishing. All right, I'm doing some stamps on my screen here just for people that are tuning in. They can kind of quickly see all aspects of the model, and then we take this real estate over here and continue to develop the model. We don't need these wings anymore. All the wings you see on the screen right now, one moment, there we go. All these wings, these are all pieces I've made over the years that sit in my asset library. So I can kind of draw from whenever I want. So this raven right here will be joining that. I like the wings tucked by the side, but I also want these really epic wide wings as well. They're not super accurate to a raven, but they sure look nice. Go ahead and hide those wings and get these nice and shaped. There we go. Need to carve out that bone. There is a joint in there somewhere. And then use my pinch brush to soften that curve. Excellent. And these wings were really just constructed by making one feather and then moving that feather around a bunch of times. I've made a lot of wings over the years, so I don't make them from scratch as often anymore because I just don't need to. I've made so many of them. This one's looking a little distorted at the top here, so I want to be careful not to push these forms too far. Can I run over with my inflate brush to bring that feather look back? Excellent. So right now this mesh is at 188,000 points, which isn't too high, but when I put things in my asset library, I like them to be really, really low. So I'm going to bring this down to at least 200,000. This bird feeder is so detailed. All right, that's a more acceptable. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to merge this entire piece with both sets of wings. I'm going to export it as an OBJ and put it into my organized folder to put in my asset library later. So I will put Raven base mesh. There we go. Also, since you guys are hanging out, I kind of want to share with you this Raven that I made, the first Raven that I made years ago. And we can kind of see how far I've improved, yeah? That's the one that's currently in my asset library that I was like, you know, I can do better. It has stylistic charm to it for sure, but it's also just one solid piece, so I can't do anything with it. Alright guys, so this Raven at the top here, that is my very, very first Raven that I made like 5 years ago. It's got charm. It's a little crooked, I don't know what's going on there. But I would say we've definitely improved, yeah? I'm just catching up on the chat. And you can really tell how much, it's like the little inaccuracies of like, because you know, I hadn't improved my artistic eye at this point, so you one of the big things I noticed on this raven right away is that the beak and the top of the head are on totally different planes, and they really should be almost completely flat. That's what they look like. I don't have any definition of the front of the rib cage here. It just kind of slopes down. The feet, we're not going to talk about the feet and what I was trying to do there. Again, I was baby artist. I'm hoping that in 5 more years I'll make another new raven and I'll look back at this one and think the same thing. Like, oh, I was trying something. And then Dragon says, cool. Yeah, I'm glad you guys think it's neat. I'm really happy with this. It's always cool to look back and see how much you've improved, you know? Wolf says, it looks more evil, the original one. I agree. It was much more stylized, which is fun, and I will be putting some more personality into the more accurate one that I've made now. But I think I leaned a little too much on personality and detail to like hide like inaccuracy. Hey, non-sleeper is here. Good morning, afternoon. All right, we're gonna get rid of that old one now. Doesn't need to be there any longer. And now it's time to make this an Eldritch Raven. So let's do that. This is where all that personality and interest comes in. This is where I can start breaking the rules and proportions I just worked so hard to find. Art. One of the first things I want to do is add kind of like a double lower eyelid here. This will just give me some more age and creepiness to work with. Alright, so we have that, and now I'm going to use Move Topological, which will automatically grab one subtool at a time, or one polygroup at a time. We're going to lower that brow, or that eyelid. So the requester on Patreon was pretty clear that this is like an unwilling creature, and it's bound into this form. So I imagine it'd be pretty crabby. So we're going to start shaping that expression here. I'm going to pull some feathers off the back of the head to give it a sharper appearance as well. So I'm going to subdivide this once so I have more polys to work with, and we're going to start finding those forms. Already looking quite different. Go with Damn Standard and kind of give it this almost like human-esque brow ridge. There we go. We've shaped that eye quite a lot. Now he's looking mad. And that's what I'm wanting here, because again, it's like unwilling. Wolf says, how do I find your Discord again? Discord is specifically for my Patreon supporters, but I'm happy to have y'all here and I can send you guys an invite. And this extends to anyone's hanging out in the live stream right now. There you go. Aloha says, I'm not sure how viable it would be, but what do you think about a monthly Mia art event for Discord? Having everyone model something from a chosen theme and we look through them at the end of the month. That would be lovely. I used to facilitate something kind of like that, kind of like a sculpting month prompt or whatever, but that was a few years ago, and that was when my mentorship program was at a different point. I would be very open to that. I'll keep that in mind and think about it. Wolf says, the subtle difference makes it look so pissed, right? It's amazing how sensitive and details are. Wolf says, the best way to know if you got better as an artist is looking back and just cringing at old art. It's true. I try not to cringe too much because I know like past me was so proud of that. So I'm just like, it's very nice, kind of like pat on the head. It's like, I'm glad that I've improved. Alrighty, happy with that. Alright, it's time to shape these wings a bit. They need some help. So this is where I'm going to start finding those more monstrous forms, and I'm probably doing a decent amount of feather replacement as well. So I think it'd be nice if they were kind of like, almost like dragon wings. There's going to be little horns on the edges of this. Going to be a little more slender. And then some of the feathers have gotten a little too goofed up. I'm going to remove. I do want it to have some of this wispiness. I might even come in with my spiral brush and add some of this like waviness. Again, because it's not really a raven, it's a eldritch being that has been bound to this form. And not like in a possession way, but like it's literally just a black smear that happens to look raven-esque. Alright, so we're gonna go ahead, come in here and grab a feather that I can then duplicate and move around. Because I think having some feathers that are sticking out almost like crooked teeth would look really nice. I'm gonna do this just on one side because it's a little easier to work outside of symmetry in this case, and then I can mirror and weld it later on. I need to be careful not to work with too thin of elements. I'm gonna bulk this up quite a bit. We're gonna add some feathers that maybe haven't been preened. This is where you'll kind of see the model really start to like come to life and look more interesting. Wolf says, I do a lot of mini painting and I still have my first 10 minis I ever made. They are bad, but they are my bad. I love that. That's a really sweet way to say that. Also, very cool that you still have those miniatures. Obviously, keep them forever. Mikey said, when you saved it as a base mesh into your library of things, did it go to all the things in one file or by itself and you add it in later? I saved it as one subtool and then I will upload that to a tool of assets. So let me show you that to be more clear. So this is a tool. I have all of my items, and when I go to add the raven, I can actually just do it right now to show you. That way it's not theoretical. So see my list of subtools that are down here, this entire list right here? All you do is I go up to Tool, Import, and then it's in my Downloads folder as of right now. There it is. Here's my piece, and it's a little too large, so I will just rotate my gizmo, and I'll throw it right there. And there we go. Now it's in my asset library. I was about to explain it to you step by step, and I'm like, I could just literally show you. So I hope that was helpful. Wolf says, what is a good first 3D modeling project for learning? Making an item or something like a feather? What is your idea? You gotta learn the fundamentals first. You gotta, like, it's way before creating anything. You're gonna spend a week just learning how to navigate, basic brushes to play around with. That's how I teach my students. So the very, very first lesson is about the UI. And I don't teach you like every single tab. I just teach you what you need to know. Once you've done UI and navigation and basic brushes, then you start with a project. And for the very, very first lesson, I don't recommend trying to make anything. My first assignment that's sculpting for my students, I literally call it create bad. Like make bad art. Just create a blob, an alien, just have fun. And then from that, I have a couple Sculpt With Me assignments where you follow how to make very basic items. Like I have a magic wooden staff, Another one I have like a little alien blob that you can make teeth and that kind of stuff. But especially when you're just a brand new beginner, I mean, it's really just about getting your hand to be trained to like hotkeys, and there's so much that goes into it before you even start sculpting anything. But as far as beginner projects go, I hope that makes sense. Just stuff that's very small and simple in sculpt, in scope. A feather could be a good one, but honestly, that doesn't practice proportions or anything like that. That's a little too heavy on just learning details. And I try to keep my students away from details as long as possible because they get lost in it. It's more important to kind of figure out like shapes and scale first. Good question though, very good question. Aloha says, having Mia cook up a model for the monthly art thing and then going through everyone's submissions for the month could be a cool way for artists of all levels to get feedback and ideas from each other. That would be a lot of fun. Oh, I'm really trying to think more about that. I have a couple students like you that I know for sure that would do it. And then, although sorry for a random idea, but I just felt like Mia feedback would be a perfect monthly thing for everyone to enjoy or work together. That would be really cool. And then like you guys submit your stuff, and then I can do sculpt overs even if you guys send me your project files. So I could show like in 15 minutes how I would improve a model. That could be helpful too. It's wild how much these little feathers sticking out like make this whole model look better. So I'm gonna take these feathers I have layered on top here. I'm gonna mirror and weld them. There we go. Looking a bit more monstrous. You tuck in these feathers so they don't clip through the back. Just using the move brush to achieve that. And then checking the front again. And now I'm going to take these feathers and layer them a little better. We're coming up on an hour here. Trying to think of what goals I want to set next. I'm always very aware of time when I'm live streaming, just so I know I'm not getting too hung up on any one aspect of a model. Excellent. Cool. There's some really nice default VDM brushes that are in ZBrush, which are pretty much like 3D sculpting brushes that you can use like quickly add texture. Chisel Organic is one of the newer ones. And by newer, I just mean it was added in the last couple years. So I'm gonna have backface mask turned on and kind of just layer in some of this. Kind of play with some scale-like texture here. I like this because they can be painted as feathers as well. There we go. Dragon says, should I start quoting the guy from Bloodborne and grant us eyes? I agree. It needs to have a bunch of eyes like hidden on it. I actually have a really nice eye VDM brush I got from Flip Normals. I think it'd be cool if they were on the chest specifically. So right now I'm adding a lot more detail and polygon so I can start adding more eyes. These are going to look more like nostrils probably until I put something in them. We're going to put some up here. Need this to be higher res. There we go. And some asymmetrical ones. And just some here and there. And then an easy way to put eyeballs in is to grab your IMM primitives brush. Modify the brush so that your depth is at a negative. So right here, bring that down. And then you just click and drag. And there you go. Eyeballs. Oops. And those can be painted in a variety of ways too, whether like more like pustules or eyeballs. I think that's gonna be fun. Cool. Hey, Pixel's here. Hi, welcome back. Let's see. Reading. Mikey says, oh, that was great. Thank you for showing us. My head was going to explode trying to figure out how I can even save into an already existing file without writing the data over and losing it all. Yeah, I'm glad. And Mikey's is talking about how I put things in my asset library. I did a little quick demo showing how I do that. I saw you guys both join the Discord, Wolf and Mikey's. Very good. Happy to have you guys there. And the Patreon, not Patreon, the Discord's meant to be for patrons only, but again, I literally own it, so my rules. Alrighty. So let's talk about that for a second here. These are all requests that I make from Patreon. So if you have a D&D character or a monster that you want to see me sculpt, I literally take requests. That is what I do. That is my bread and butter. So you can submit a request every single month that you support me on Patreon, and then I sculpt it live. And especially since you guys already hang out in the live streams, I always love when the requester hangs out while I sculpt it. Not so I can you guys don't have to direct every little detail of what I do necessarily, but it's fun to see it come to life. And if you guys have creative ideas as I'm sculpting it, I'm totally open to that, and that's a lot of fun. So yeah, if you're playing tabletop, so TTRPGs, and then if you're a DM especially, or a player character with a special familiar, you can request that, and I'd love to be part of your game in my own special way. If you have questions about that, just let me know. Alrighty, so this is that first section kind of knocked out, and let's go ahead and plan my next section here. I'm gonna put 30 minutes on the clock, and then I'm gonna take my first break. But until then, let's see how much I can get done in the next 30 minutes. Again, thanks for hanging out. This was a really good time. Hello says, yes, more people joining us. I feel like each stream, me and a few other regulars take net and try to scoop up new people. It is what it feels like. I found that live streaming on YouTube has been a gold mine of finding new people, and not only is it growing the community and what I do here, it is the reason why I can do this full time. And I feel beyond lucky every day to be the opposite of a starving artist trope. Yeah. Ricky and I think this is awesome. We can do this full time. So thanks for being a part of that. And even if you're not donating directly on Patreon, just being here does make a difference. Liking the stream, subscribing, all that stuff, it all matters. All right. I also think some black wispiness would be really cool here. I'm gonna go ahead and grab a ring primitive shape. Let's go ahead and play with this with some deformers. The first thing I'm gonna do is zero mesh it, so it's a little low resolution. And then add a twist deformer. I like that. And then maybe a taper. I like it. from here, I can inflate it. And then one of my favorite things to do is adding bend arc or bend curve. That's how I get these really interesting smoke-like shapes. All right, let's kind of nestle some of these shapes in here. So I have a really cool base. What's important is when you're creating stuff like this is to layer them. Don't make one interesting shape and be like, oh cool, I did it. Keep going. So I have this piece here, I'm gonna duplicate it. And then I'm going to pull off this form to have some smaller ones that kind of like loop through it. And I don't really have any specific rules of how I do this. This is really where that artistry comes in, where you just kind of have fun with it. Eldritch beings are so interesting, and they don't really have a specific rule set they follow. So you can really play with it and just think about what kind of shapes and forms are going to give that feeling and interpretation. And to me, this is what feels eldritch. I'm thinking Lovecraftian. I'm thinking tentacles. And that actually kind of complements that horn shape I put at the top of the wing surprisingly well. Yeah, that's looking more Bloodborne-esque too. I like it. Wolf says, bird armor. Accurate. No, Wolf says, how do you mirror objects? I have it docked on my UI here, but that's not very helpful for y'all. So when you want to find it, it's under the transform menu, I believe. Nope, I speak lies. Just kidding. One second. There it is. It's your subtool menu. So down here, scroll down, deformation, mirror. There you go. I'm so used to my custom UI that I don't even know where things actually are in ZBrush anymore sometimes because I made it myself. I'm really pleased with this shape here. I think it's pretty awesome. I'm gonna duplicate this shape and rotate it, and I think it'd be cool if his chest was kind of tentacle-y. I really need to add feathers at some point. It is a bird. That's pretty cool, y'all. I like this heart shape. Ooh. I kind of want to like put a heart in his chest. I don't know if I want to sculpt the anatomical heart right now, but that would be cool. Aloha says, this has been the only channel and community I've interacted with on this level before. Oh, really? I feel honored. I truly feel like Mia's quality of modeling and teaching is easily on par with content creators at 100,000 subs. Well, thanks. I mean, maybe one day I'll make it there, but if not, it's hard to be greedy when you already have what you want. You know what I mean? Like, as the channel grows, and it has been doing really well, it's always exciting, don't get me wrong. More is more, but I don't know. I'm really happy where I'm at, honestly. I appreciate you, Aloha, taking time to say such kind words. It means a lot. And even for the people hanging out here that aren't as talkative, that are just lurking, I appreciate you guys too. That's usually the kind of person I am. Wolf says, make it a jewel of a heart on the chest. And I love the content. Oh, I'm happy to have you guys here. All right, I have a gem brush. Instead of just doing a straight up heart, maybe I can do like I'm a big fan of like pear-shaped gems. Yeah, something like that. It's also cool to have a different texture as well. Wolf says, I love the content. It really helps me get back into 3D modeling. Yeah, it's an absolute joy, you know? So remember, you don't have to be good at it. Just have fun, you know? Make anything that's worth celebrating. All right, guys, it's starting to look from Raven to Eldritch. The Eldritch part is starting to come out. I'm really, really happy with that. I need to block out the feather shape here on this chest. To do that, I like to use the Move brush, and I hold down Option, which is also known as Alt on Windows computers. And I kind of just drag these forms around. If you try to do this on ZBrush, you'll find that it's a little trickier than that, but don't get discouraged. It's very dependent on the rotation of your camera. So if I pull out a piece here versus rotating the camera in that exact same spot, it changes the direction. So just keep playing around with it, or even find your own a technique. That's totally viable too. Oh, I have a different head under here. One of them that doesn't have subdiv. I need to delete that one. No thank. It's also important when you're adding feathers or texture that you don't just blanket it the same. If you'll notice carefully here, the little blobs of feathers and shape that I'm adding to the head are much smaller than the ones as I continue down the body. So it's kind of like a gradient of shapes. One, it's accurate, the feathers towards the head are smaller, but really what I'm doing is I'm creating a higher density of detail where I want you to look. And the head is going to be the focal point of the model here, but it's also going to be fighting with the wings to some extent for attention. So I'm going to try to have those balance out. I honestly don't know if I want the viewer to be looking at the head or the wings. I think either is a win. I just want to make sure that the body is ignorable, but still complementing the model. Looking pretty cool, y'all. So the warlock that I'm gonna sculpt later is actually gonna be riding the raven, so I'm excited for that. I'm gonna put one more layer of these tentacles here, but making them much, much smaller. I just need more of a transition area. There we go. Beautiful. I know the requester is just gonna love this. Alright, I've completely ignored the back, so let's go ahead and add some detail here. I am going to add some actual feather looking detail, but you don't want to blanket feathers just on a completely flat surface. It looks ridiculous. Like if I go in here with like scales and just like feathers, it doesn't look as good as if you were to take it on something that already has some form. It actually lets you like really naturally layer them and just looks much more interesting. Here we go. Alright, this has kind of an odd form going on, so we're gonna strike that really quick because it needs to be more of a taper, not just a flat block. There we go. I noticed that as I was doing it, I was like, that does look weird. There we go, that's better. There's so many shapes within shapes within shapes. All right, y'all, it's really coming together. Cool. Aloha says, I'm heading out now. Want to pop in, say hi. Hope everyone has a good day. Yeah, thanks for joining. And then Wolf says, mini warlock on a normal size raven. I mean, technically, depending how you print it, either could be true. I think they are intending for a normal size warlock. Well, it is a halfling warlock, so definitely on the small side. Are you sending hearts? Yeah. Whenever there's like a spam of hearts, I always know it's my husband. Thank you. All right, we can start adding some of these tertiary fine details. So these are going to be defining feathers that I really want to have attention. I actually do like to use the scale. I reduce the Z intensity quite a bit, and then I play with the focal shift, which is just the blend when you're applying a brush. The higher the focal shift, the more it blends. All right, lowering the intensity. I'm just playing with this over and over again until I get a shape that I want. Yeah, it's going to be something I think I like. Alright, starting to layer these feathers, and these feathers actually point forward, which is unusual. Most of these feathers are going to like slope down the body. But the ones by the beak actually point forward. Right by the eye is where it does change direction, so I'm going to pick a direction change here and kind of slope it over. Same with the brow. As I'm moving away from the eye, I'm going to have it get not so much like less detail, but larger shapes. Less concentrated. I'm going to reduce the intensity and then pull some larger shapes on top of the head. Being really careful not to have any of them where they carve straight in. That does happen sometimes. Just be careful with your placement. And then whenever you get to the center line, I recommend turning symmetry off and then placing those out of symmetry. Otherwise, they kind of like glitch through themselves. This is really relaxing. Thank you guys for hanging out while I do this. I was like hesitant, you know, I was cautious about this stream because I was like, all right, I'm sculpting this bird from scratch. And in my last stream, it was kind of fighting me a bit because my perspective on it was totally wrong. But it ended up being a much easier stream than I expected. Alright, the head's looking pretty detailed now. I think it'd be nice if the beak had some wear and tear on it. One of my favorite ways to do that is Damn Standard and this alpha that I use too often. I'm going to turn off symmetry and then add a bit of cracking to the beak. Just kind of playing with different shapes here. I want it to be weathered on both sides, so that way no matter what side of the model you're looking at, there's something interesting. I think it's a nice bit of detail. Excellent. let's get a fun render on here. I'm about to go on my first break. I guess my only break. I only do one break per stream usually. Alrighty, Mikey says, wait, I stepped away for a moment and you're doing some voodoo magic feather thing? Yeah, I work pretty quick. What was happening there is I repurposed a VDM brush that's already in ZBrush. Under Chisel Creature, these scales right here, by default the scales look like this. And I just kind of play with the Z intensity and the focal shift so that way it blends really nicely. So if you lower the Z intensity and increase the focal shift a lot, the behavior becomes more like this. And I can kind of layer those on here carefully to create this nice feather effect that will also paint really well when 3D printed. So yeah, that's what happened. And that's pretty accurate. I have people that step away from the stream and, you know, live their lives, they come back and they're like, wait, what the heck? What just happened? Yeah, this is looking pretty darn good. Right now I'm kind of just playing with the lighting and the just overall effect. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Very cool. Well, I think we're succeeding in making this look eldritch. Alright guys, I'm going to take my 15-minute break and I'll be back. It's usually less than 15 minutes, but regardless, just know that I will be back. Thanks for voting in the poll. It's cool to see so many guys play tabletop games. Not necessarily surprising because that's related to what I'm doing, but it's still cool to see. Alrighty. I'll be back. In the meantime, it'd mean the world to me if you checked out my Patreon. I have that in the description and then linked at the top of the chat. It says to click here for 900 models. And it's a pretty screaming deal, and you can request stuff for me to sculpt on stream. Not only do you get this cool model, but I share it with everyone in my community, so it's kind of just like this win-win for everyone. Alright guys, I'll be back in just a bit. Thank you guys for hanging out. Hi y'all, I'm back. Had a good break, got a snack, and I'm ready to kind of finish the stream out strong here. Thank you guys for waiting on me. This has been a really, really cool stream. I am just really, really happy that this raven came together so nicely. Alright, and then Dragon says, the tentacle should have eyes. The wings should have eyes. The eyes should have eyes. You know, there's honestly a way to do that. That's so fun. And then Tovel's here. I think that you're new, or Tavel. I'm just call you Vel. Hi, welcome. And yeah, it's not over, I just on break. I'm back now. Alrighty. I'm gonna get myself all buttoned up here for the next section of the stream. I think I'm going to move on to a new model. This isn't finished, but it's pretty close. It's also at a really good stopping point for today. So this Eldritch Raven went through a lot of improvements just this one stream. I'm gonna save this a few times just to make sure, because it's saved in the wrong spot. Yeah, that's what I thought. There we go. So next what we're gonna do is I'm gonna work on the pose for the human wizard. So this is the model that I had ready to go, and then in the beginning half of the stream, my husband's actually sitting at the desk next to me, and he has this rigged in Character Creator 4 and has a few poses ready for me to clean up. So let's go ahead and check this out. I'm gonna download them right now. And we're working on getting something set up so that you guys can see him pose while I stream as well. Haven't quite figured that out yet. All right, I have those downloading and I'll be opening them shortly. In the meantime, if you guys have any questions, feel free to let me know. If not, we're gonna be rolling to this next section really shortly. All right, and here is that first pose drafted. So you can see there's a little bit of deformation like of the cape and stuff, so that's stuff I handle, and then adding details. But I love this pose. All right, let's get this fixed up. Oh, I need to get my timer up here too. Awesome. So whenever I am taking care of these poses and cleaning them up, that final touch, I like to reset the scene. So it's actually really large. If I click Unify, it makes it nice and small, and that way my brushes behave the way that they're supposed to. There is a size discrepancy between ZBrush and Character Creator 4, so just make sure that you adjust for that if you're using both of those softwares. Also, it looks like he lost his fingernails, which I thought was really funny. This is definitely the kind of model that'd benefit with having like a spell in his hand too. So we're gonna pin this up here. And let's get to it. I'm not totally sure what I'm gonna do with the hat. Let's make that its own piece. The next thing that I think needs to be handled is these fingernails need to go away. Looks like they fell off the model. That's pretty normal. The rig just didn't quite grab them. They stayed on the other hand though. Funny. Sometimes stuff will get distorted in Character Creator, so you can see like this sleeve here got a little messed up. I can either smooth it out and sculpt on it, or I can just take this other one here and mirror it and replace this one. I got a lot of different tricks I've kind of picked up over the years of working. It's frequently not worth saving a mesh that's gotten distorted. Just delete it and replace it. Yeah, it doesn't take very much time either. Beautiful. This is pretty cool. You'll notice here that there aren't going to be any like fabric details. I like to do these in ZBrush, so that's what we're going to be doing right now. Alright, so I've subdivided this. Now it's ready for fabric folds. And I add that using my standard brush and lazy mouse turned on. I like to add these fabric folds once it's been posed so I can use these details to further accentuate and improve the model. Sometimes I'll add a couple basic folds before posing, but I try to hold off until it is ready. So I can really accentuate this twist in the body here. I'm using the same brush to achieve this, just using standard, and I'm going back and forth between adding and removing material. It's got this really cool ornate belt that I made, so I'm going to have the fabric bulge around that just a touch. And then some small folds on the back here. Even though it's not super visible, it's important that you're addressing those areas because your eye will naturally gravitate towards areas that are perfectly smooth. You'll just instinctively know, like, that looks kind of weird. There we go, it's looking much better. Hey, Ferret's here. Hi, welcome back. It's a hello that looks super nice. Thank you. I'm getting this pose all cleaned up. And earlier in the stream, we worked on this Eldritch Raven that's really cool. It's worth clicking through the stream to see that. Yeah, so this like centerpiece drape kind of got really distorted in Character Creator 4. It's really easy to remake tabards. It's not even worth saving that. So I got rid of that. That's partly due just to the construction. It was so low poly so that when he went to pose it, it just tore, which is fine. I'll show you guys how easy it is to remedy that. Just gonna append a cube. And I can even make a more interesting shape here while I'm at it. Go with bend curve. Something that will even further accentuate the pose. I have it bending the wrong direction. Accident, so I'll do this and then mirror it. Nope. There we go. There we go. Forgot what I was wanting to achieve there, so I had to kind of take a moment. I'm like, what is the goal here? There's the goal. Alright, so now we have a much better tabard. And I can go through and actually make a bunch of like little copies of this that are kind of like flowing in the wind or whatever. But I'll deal with that later. I still want to kind of address just any of the large issues that need to be fixed up first. Like this cape has seen better days. Farrah says, ooh, I'll have to watch later. Yeah, it was a really cool change. I'm going to zero mesh this at half to clean this up. There we go. You know what I'm going to do instead of trying to recover this cape? I already have the cape. I don't have to do that. All I have to do is copy this. We're going to open the original file, which is right here. Paste this tool. And then, what do you know? There's my nice cape. Done. Boop. Fixed. I was like, why am I sculpting this? I've already done this. There we go. Perfect. And then I'll really think about how to best pose this cape to complement the model too. I'm gonna put some stamps down here just so that way people are tuning in can really quickly see what I'm working on. There we are. Beautiful. This shoulder pad here isn't really complementing the model very well, so I'm just gonna remove it. That looks good. I'm gonna break this collar into its own piece so I can make sure it falls just the way I want it to. I thought I was gonna need this collar piece. Looks like I'm not going to. Perfect. Last thing, we're gonna make these layers their own piece. I'm gonna bring this forward as well. That'll help balance the model a bit more too, visually. That looks good. Going with my transpose line to really quickly move these shapes around. I'm rotating a lot to really see what the silhouette is looking like. This cape is going to be a really fun piece here. But I want to make sure it's going to fit on the base still, so I'm kind of keeping that in mind as I work on it. I feel like maybe the cape should be flowing the other way. Yeah, it should be going this way. There we go. That's the side that balances that model better. These are really fun to kind of like add these really dramatic swooshy shapes. And that is the technical proper art term, swooshy. The sleeves here have gotten a little twisted, so I'll go ahead and just split them into their own piece so I can manage these. Just needs a nice little smooth, and then to add those fabric folds in manually, which I pretty much expect to do anyhow. We're gonna zero mesh them at half because this decimated texture is a little hard to sculpt on. There we go, that's cleaned up really nicely. And then from here, when I subdivide, I have a much more even distribution of polygons to sculpt on. And then polygons, that's just the shapes that make up the the shape. That's like the building blocks, if you will. All these little squares, those are polys. That's what I'm referring to. It matters a lot more when you are designing for like a game asset. In 3D printing, you can kind of get away with it being more of a, it just makes it easy, nicer to work, but it's not imperative. Adding some fabric folds. Beautiful. And then really using these lines here to convey, like, you know, just the motion of the model. I want everything to complement together. Beautiful. So I see a lot of you guys voted that you do play tabletop games. I'm curious, what do you guys play? I know most people know of D&D the most, but I think most people that watch my streams actually play Pathfinder. Personally, I've only played D&D 5e. But I don't play a lot in person. I really play a lot more video games. So I play stuff like Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous, like on Xbox. I don't play with other people. Same kind of treatment here. I'm adding fabric folds after cleaning up the topology a bit. Just easier to add and work upon. Beautiful. Well, thanks Non-Sleeper for checking in. And gotta go live calls, but thanks for being here. I appreciate it. Oh, Foxy's here. Hi. I don't know if you are new or not, or just a lurker. Either way, hi, welcome. Foxy says D&D 3 to 5e, Pathfinder twice, and Lord of the Rings, Traveler, Savage Worlds, a bunch of others. I've never heard of Savage Worlds. I have heard of the other ones though. Very, very cool. Oh, Scott says, I think you're also new. Hi, welcome. Scott says Alien RPG and 5 parsecs from home. Ooh, I like that one. It sounds fun. I've heard of Alien, but not 5 parsecs. So yeah, I'm learning some new stuff here. Very cool. Appreciate you guys sharing. I always like hearing more. I need to ask. So everything that I do here is to make tabletop miniatures, right? They're 3D printable. And everything that I'm creating was a request on Patreon. So if you support me on Patreon, you can request a model every month, and that's what I make. It's a really good time, and I kind of just assume people are using it for D&D or Pathfinder, but I bet you I get a lot of custom requests for games that you guys are mentioning too. So that's really, really cool. Foxy says Savage Worlds is a kind of universal system like GURPS, but a lot simpler. I am not super familiar with what that means either, but it's a funny acronym. Right now, I'm just making sure this cape is fitting here. I know this specific request on Patreon, this is their player character. So I'm especially trying to spend some extra attention because, assuming they don't just die in their next session, it'd be nice to make something with a little more thought and care because I get super attached to my player characters. I don't know about you guys. I have a binder where I keep all of my player sheets over the years, and it's kind of fun to look back. I used to just stuff them into my player's handbook, but a friend of mine actually gave me the binder for, I think it's my birthday or Christmas, to keep them all nice and organized. It was a really thoughtful gift. then Foxy specified the acronym meaning General Universe Role-Playing System. Okay, gotcha. Thank you for clarifying. I'm always learning something new. I love doing cape folds like this. They're really fun to paint, and they're even more fun for me to sculpt. I don't paint as many minis as I should. I know, like, do any of us? I have a few people in my Discord that support me on Patreon that are like super diligent, and they print and paint everything, and I really admire that. I'm not quite there yet. I'm good at sculpting a lot of stuff. Not so good at the rest of it yet. You guys have anything fun planned for the weekend? I'm probably gonna stream still, but after the streams, I've been playing a lot of Spirit Tea. It's been really fun. It's actually what I'm listening to now. I'm listening to the soundtrack. All right, almost done cleaning this up. Scott says, 5 parsecs requires me to print a squad of new bad guys every time I play. I mesh mix a lot, but need to sculpt better conversions. Putty takes time. Yeah, putty takes a long time, but my goodness, that encourages you to be posting a lot. I like it. Oh, then Sarah says, Baldur's Gate 3. Hi, Sarah. Haven't seen you here in a while. And then, Ricky, why are you talking about the Super Bowl? You commenting Super Bowl?
Yeah, you said what are we doing this weekend?
Oh, yes, duh. Immediately forgot. Immediately. I was like, we're talking about what tabletop games we play. I'm like, I don't know of any tabletop games called Super Bowl. Sarah says, might get my brother-in-law to fire up his new printer with your models. Oh, that'd be exciting. I have released a lot of stuff of late. So there's no shortage of stuff to pick from. I've recently broke the 900 model mark, and this year I'm definitely on track to hit over 1,000. My goal is to get 200 requests finished, and I think I might have to up that goal because we're barreling down towards that goal already, and it's just February. I know people print my stuff and use it in their games because that's literally like the backbone of my business and how my livelihood works. But every time I hear people doing it or like see prints out in the wild, it makes me so happy. So hearing that, Sarah, makes me smile. All right, getting these last fabric folds blocked out here. And then I'm thinking about maybe adding some more little details of this model, like knickknacks, trinkets, that kind of stuff. Because he is a wizard and there's not a single book on him right now. Seems lacking. All right, I think it's time to detail this tabard. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna extrude a line around the edge here. So I'm gonna use extrude and then poly loop. You know what? I'm actually going to do it on the side. That way we don't get any of this weird deformation. You know, I'm not thrilled with that. Let's do this manually. If your Z modeler brush isn't listening the way you want it to, you can always go through and manually paint out what you're wanting, which is what I'm doing right now. I would have had a better time if I initialized this cube. It would have better topology all the way around, but I was going for something just quick. So I can do extrude polygroup island. That's the result I was wanting. Now I can divide a few times, have a simple extrusion on this tabard, and then I'm going to find a nice trim brush to layer on top of it. Something really ornate and fun. Sarah says, you stream live work, so I don't get to catch your streams now, but I'm sick, so I'm here. Well, I'm sorry you're sick, but I'm glad you're here. I am streaming more on weekends, so maybe that will work out. Again, yeah, I haven't seen your name in a long time. It's really good to see you pop back in. Also, feel better soon. Ferret says, I'm currently doing Vampire the Masquerade and Hunter. Oh, cool. My storyteller is pretty evil to my character. I played Vampire the Masquerade. I didn't know that was a tabletop game. Or that, I'm pretty sure like the coterie. I played it on Switch. Interesting. Very cool. That'd be a really fun world to play a game in. Foxy said, I had a Hunter game fall throughout of scheduling issues. Time zones, inconsistent work schedules make things so hard. Yeah, trying to like have fun amidst like real work and real life schedule is not the best. I used to play more in college because my friends were also going to school and we were all in the same engineering college. And then once we graduated, we moved all across the country and made it kind of tough. Yeah, Ferret kind of echoes that sentiment, being like, dude, yeah, it's really hard to get and keep people. I have a pretty solid group of guys I play with. Well, good. I mean, keep at it and eventually I think it pans out. Just gotta be patient. All right, so I have another hour blocked out for this stream. Let's see what we can get done. Oh, and the way that I have donations working on this stream is that if anyone donates, doesn't matter how much, I just pivot to a new model. I just kind of keep hopscotching models. Technically, you could pick me go back to the Raven that started beginning of the stream. Just kind of a fun thing to keep things fresh. Right now, I'm going to add a decorative trim brush to this tabard. I have some pictures here I can preview quickly and see which one catches my eye. I like the swirl. I think this one might fit best. Yes. So to make this work the best, I'm gonna need to Dynamesh this, which is gonna pretty much lay out the polys in a new way. And then when I subdivide off of this, it's gonna play nicer. I'm gonna have backface mask turned on, and then I can really nicely lay this out. I'm gonna increase the intensity as much as possible, so that way paint actually catches this. There we go. I forgot to mask the bottom. There we go. And let's do it again. There we go. Just a nice detail there. Has to be pretty exaggerated, so that way, no matter how large you print this, it will actually show up. I'm gonna tuck this in so there's no clipping issues. And if I wanted to, I could add some fabric folds to this. I think I want to add just a couple. It needs to be pretty high intensity so that shows up. Without, I don't want to distort the design too much, so maybe I can sneak a little bit there. Got some really subtle ones. There we go, just adding a little bit of dimension. Right now I'm going to position this belt a little differently just to really show what direction his hips are moving. Perfect. every adjustment I do is just about making the model better and read more clearly. I've been creating a lot of spell effects from this ring recently, and I think I'm gonna add one to his hand. It's gonna be cool. We're gonna do a spiral, which is a deformer under the 3D gizmo. There we go, something like this. I'm gonna bulk it up, zero mesh by half again. And then maybe we're gonna intersect a few of these. That way we can kind of have it travel up his arm. All right, we got some sort of spell effect going on here. Let's put this squiggly on his hand. And it's really important, it's gonna follow the length of his arm. And then I'm gonna have this kind of wrap. This jewel right here is distracting, so I'm gonna delete it. Initially it complemented the model, but now we have a new focus. All right, something I can do now is grab a few more deformers to make this even more interesting and complementing the models. Something like a twist, something like this. Because now it's looking a little meh. That's better. And then maybe a bend arc that pulls this shape upwards. That's kind of fun. And I can reposition it. There we go. That's more interesting. Yeah, it's all about silhouette. Perfect. That's actually looking like a spell effect now and not just like some random squiggle. Which, I mean, the line here is fine to walk. It's pretty much the same thing. I'm gonna come in here with my Z modeler brush and add a couple fine details I can extrude using polyloop. When I go to divide this, it's pretty much just gonna give it some interesting lines for your eye to follow. That's the goal. There we go. All right, now that we have those swirls here, let's see how it looks subdivided. Very nice. I can even push this a little further with my spiral brush. There we go. That's nice. Much happier with that. I need to add a fabric fold to the inside of this cuff. Just looking odd without it. Very nice. Sweet. Well, I think this is looking really strong. What do you guys think? I'm pretty happy with this. This head looks a bit funny because we lost some volume on the back of the neck, so I'm just gonna add that in really quick. And fixed. It's a small detail, but it matters. I'm gonna go ahead and pull this hat down a little further so it doesn't require a support right there. Just makes it a little more stable too. It does kind of affect that silhouette though. Looks a little weird. So I need to be careful with that. The hat needs something. Yeah, something like this. I'm gonna play with that. There we go. It's been a really satisfying model to work on. And the last thing I think it's missing is a large tome on his hip. So I'm gonna go into my asset library where I have lots of pieces I've kind of collected over the years I've been sculpting, and put a nice book on his hip. Zoom out, we don't need a bagpipe. Come on, ZBrush. There we go. I think that book right here is going to be perfect. It even has some runes on it. Oop, this is the wrong mesh. Boop, delete all. Here we are. All right, let's go ahead and throw this detail on here. And that's going to just fit perfectly right here. It's super visible. It's going to be easy to paint too. Beautiful. Oh, I love that. Love that. This is cool. Sarah says, he's looking damn nice. Looks like I'm fielding a blade singer next to my DM. That would be awesome. And that's really what it's all about. Like, when I first started taking requests, it kind of felt niche, and I wasn't sure if it was going to benefit everyone, because at the end of the day, like, this is a business for me, right? And I need to make sure that I'm doing things that are viable and that people are going to want. So I was worried if I did requests that it would just help that one person. But I found that, like, as people support me on Patreon and share their creative ideas and their visions and stuff, it's amazing how much we have in common and how much we all like the same things. And this is someone's player character, but yeah, as Sarah mentioned, this would be a perfect NPC to put in, you know, for next time's ADM. So really cool. I feel like I really started to hit my stride as an artist and what I specialize in and do best. And that's a really good feeling. I think something I'd like to do with this hat is adding that same trim we have on the tabard, the same decoration. Let's see how that turns out. I'm just gonna put it on there really quickly, and then we'll zoom out and see how it did. All right, put it on there quickly. Yes, that really ties it together. So now the hat is gonna match this tabard here, which is what I was wanting. Oops, that's getting a little deformed. Just carefully applying this. Oh, it's so close. All right, looking good. Let's go ahead and add some tighter fabric folds here, and then we're just about done with this character. Again, thanks for hanging out while I do this. It's really just a good time. And like always, I'm an open book, so if you guys have any questions, nothing is too basic. I also teach people how to make their own characters from scratch. A lot of them don't have any artistic background, so I've heard all of the questions. Nothing's gonna sound too basic. Right now I'm just building up these fabric folds because even though this hat isn't like a huge focal piece of the model necessarily, it needs to match the same level of detail as the rest of it, otherwise it will stand out for other reasons. There we go. How's that? Pretty nice. I see that this sleeve is clipping through the collar, so let's go ahead and repair that. Bam, just grabbing my move brush to do that. And then his beard's a little hard to see, so we can't have that. So what I'm going to do is grab this beard, mask a section of it, and we're gonna just make it larger. This is really just for clarity of elements. I'm always looking at this design thinking what's gonna make this more clear, more interesting. And I pretty much ask myself that like 1,000 times while I sculpt. Foxy says, have you done many minis that aren't sword and sorcery fantasy? Yes, I do a lot of, well, I guess it depends. I do a lot of grimdark stuff as well. I also have an entire Kickstarter project where I have done pirates, Vikings, steampunk, Japanese mythology, Greek mythology, and Baby Beast. Those are probably the most separate from that. So on my Patreon, I have over 900 models available. So at some point, you start jumping different topics. It's kind of fun. Oh, I also have this series I've done of like gilded porcelain, like automatrons. They're beautiful, like they're really cool. So imagine like a android, but instead it's made of porcelain. So it has like those same like cracks and divots and stuff. It's pretty cool. Sarah says, any with requests, people can get models for the more obscure monsters. Yes. You're making an unarmed golem, so I could have that as a shield guardian mini. That was a godsend, that campaign. Oh, I remember that model. You can't find shield guardian minis. This is very true. This is very true. So yeah, I try to narrow down the kind of models I do to high fantasy because it makes it really simple. But the reality is that I've done so many over the years. Let me grab, I don't know why I'm just describing it to you. I can literally just show it to you. I'm pulling up my constructs right now to show you guys. So here is one of those porcelain constructs that I made. It's, again, you can kind of see like the striping on her legs. This is also available on Patreon. But another one that was interesting was this kind of Japanese looking bard. Yeah, ceramic bard construct. I think it's this one. Yeah, look how, this is so neat. Like this is not your my typical sword and shield kind of fantasy. You can really see like all those markings, and that's kind of neat. And I also, I don't know if you guys know this, but I also do scatter terrain too. So I love doing this model, the steampunk horse. Pretty cool. This was a request as well, and I just had a blast doing this. One of the few models I actually did finally paint. I print all my stuff to make sure I like how it looks, but I don't always remember to paint it. So yeah, that's one of them. That's probably more answer than you're expecting, Foxy, but I love what I do. So if you ask questions about my work, you're gonna get a lot of answer. Barrett says neat. Isn't that cool? Yeah, I agree. I'm digging it. All right. Well, what else does this need? There's not a whole lot of sword-wielding wizards out there, so this is going to be a unique one for a lot of reasons. I think I'm going to toy with having this flame effect at the base of the sword, which kind of implies that it is a... Yeah, that's cool. I'm just having fun over here, guys. There we go. Excellent. Oh, this is gonna be so, so cool when it's printed. I'm not too worried about the flame kind of, or whatever this is. You could paint this a lot of different ways. This spell effect clipping through his hands because he's literally summoning it. So I'm not too fussed about that. Alright, this cape needs a little bit of shaping and then we will be done. It just needs something asymmetrical about it. There we go. Even just like height on one side. And I need to bring it in a little closer to the model. Making sure, because this is someone's player character, so I need to make sure it doesn't like hang off the base and it is easy and fun to play with without having any like too many finicky fragile elements. I don't mind doing that for some of my large monsters, but the players are going to be moving on the board a lot. They need to be a little more robust. Cool. Cool. Foxy says, very cool. Might have to put in a request for a sci-fi model. Maybe somebody from Dune. I am absolutely down to doing inspired models from stuff. I don't obviously do like silhouette classics like Darth Vader or like Mickey Mouse, but no, I can do inspired stuff. Absolutely. Especially Dune, because there's so many, I mean, again, it's a desert environment. There's a lot of cool stuff I can do with that. It never hurts to put in a request. So if you put in a request that I say no to, which I don't know if this has ever happened actually, but let's say theoretically I do say no to it, it doesn't void your request. I would just be like, hey, what if I do this? But I'll usually will offer a different version of it. But you can just submit a different one. It's not like, that was your one shot, now it's no forever. Alright, I need to put a couple folds striking across the back. You really can barely see it because it's the cape. But when it's perfectly smooth, it looks silly back there. There we go. And then I need some stronger folds leading off of the back. There we are. Some of these folds got a little muddy back here, but they still look, the rule of cool is in effect, so I'm gonna let it slide. Right now I'm just adding more material to this cape here to make sure we don't have any printing issues later down the line. Looking good. I think this character's a wrap, y'all. Might just put one more tabard here that's smaller. I really like layers. Very good. And there needs to be one more striking fold at the bottom here. Perfect. Maybe a divot. Yes. And then just for clarity of design, this needs to be moved over. Yes. I think it's about done. I think it's time to post-process, put a base on it, and we're wrapped up. I'm double checking the sword because swords are notoriously fragile, so I'm just like, do I need to add more material to this or is it good? I might just strike down the center here and do a little whoop, make it even wider. Very good. All right, let's start post-processing. So right now we're sitting at 5.5 million points. I'm gonna crush this all the way down to 200,000, somewhere around there. So let's start from the top and work our way down. First thing is the hat, which is at 300,000 points. I'm gonna bring that down, but first check for the mesh integrity. Looks great. And let it autosave. With ZBrush's auto-saving, if you look at it funny, it will crash, so just leave it alone. All right, go ahead and remeshed. And decimate. And we gotta just keep repeating that process as we work all the way down. The reason why I don't do it all at once, though I do try every now and then, is just to make sure there aren't any mesh errors, and it's a lot easier to track them down otherwise. If you do it all at once, you're not going to be sure where the problem was coming from, which I've done a handful of times. At least once a year, I'm like, I can get away with it. I can. Looks good. Just slowly piece these in. This is a process that tends to really frustrate beginners, and especially some of my students, because you really have to know like these invisible rules to walk with ZBrush of what's gonna be too much. And some of that has to do with your computer and specs as well. God knows when I first started this, my computer was not strong enough to handle any of it. And poor software was crashing all the time. Believe me, that got old fast. Alright, this is going really clean though. Alright, I think someone new is here. I want to say Alex, but there's an I there. Is it Alexi or Alexi? Treep. I call you Treep. Treep is fun. Treep says, hey, I found your channel recently. It's absolutely amazing. Oh, thank you so much. They say, thanks for the great streams and tutorials. That means a lot to me. I really want it to be as like entertaining, but also like useful as possible. Treep says, do you have a tutorial on how to optimize Model 3 printing, filling the holes between subtools, etc.? I do, but it's for my mentorship students specifically. Foxy says, he looks kind of, looks like a cool with the bald head. Can that be a version? Oh, I already merged it down. I'm not going to do that, but it's a really good question. Usually, it's hard for me to like draw that line of like how many different versions to offer, especially when I'm doing multiple poses. Maybe you'll have to request a really cool bald-headed wizard. We'll see. And yeah, so Treep, I do teach. I have a bunch of mentorship students. If you're interested in that, I have that link in the description. It's $30 a month, and it's one-on-one mentorship from me. But if you're just looking at it for one specific like video or tutorial, I can talk a little slower as I work through this because it's just the same process over and over again, pretty much. All right, let's find a timer here. Here we go. All right, and we're rolling. I'm working on my own website right now, which is going to allow me to have as many uploads and alternate versions as I want. I'm really excited. It's not quite done yet. It takes forever, but hopefully by, I don't know, spring. All right, so when I'm post-processing, essentially the name of the game is one, good construction. You can't have too thin of elements or any weird stuff like that. Everything that you merge, I remesh by union, and then I decimate. I just kind of keep repeating that process. Hey, Miguel's here. What up? Miguel is MZ4250. Really good friend of mine. Pops in every now and then. Is a menace. Also a very good friend. Alright, so it's just about done. I'm just kind of checking for any errors like this where the book was laying on him enough, like it's gonna print, but if I want it to be as flat as possible. There we go. All right, Treep says, great, thanks for the information. I will look into it, keep up the great work. Yeah, of course, if you have any questions, let me know. Like, yes, I have a mentorship program and like it's paid and whatever, but I do well for myself. I don't need to gatekeep every little crumb of knowledge for a buck, you know what I mean? So feel comfortable to ask me questions and stuff too. And then Miguel's pretending like he doesn't know me. That checks out. Miguel has like, we live in different states, but when I moved to my current home across the country, like he came out and visited and like, which is really cool and supportive. And I mean, we don't know each other. He just showed up. It was weird. All right, this is going really smooth and we're just about done here. And it's so satisfying when I finish a model at the end of the stream. I mean, I'm always happy with the amount that's funny, with the amount of work that I get done, but there's something that's really satisfying about finishing it right at the end of the stream too. I'm still thinking about that Eldritch Raven. I can't believe how smoothly that came together. So yeah, just this little skirt right here is 2 million points, which it doesn't need to be that. So I'm bringing it all the way down to like 1/10 of that. You really can print stuff this high res, but like it's not gonna look any better. It's just gonna slice really, really slowly. And that's why I crush these files down as much as possible. Sweet, that went on no problem. I'm thinking about what kind of base I want to put on this model. I don't have a lot of bases that look like magic-y with spell effects. Maybe I'll take one of these like little flame spirals and put a couple of them around him like in a circle. Just kind of toying with that. But thank you guys for hanging out. If you're just tuning in or lurking, this is what I do for a living. I make D&D miniatures on request. If you want to put in your own request, that's on Patreon. I got that linked at the top of the chat and description. But it's been really fun. I've been focused on just requests for a little over 8 months now. I've been making minis for 5 years, but when you first started out, I had so many like fundamentals I didn't have. Like I didn't have a single dragon in my library or goblin. So now that I have a lot of these like essentials mapped out, it's been fun like bringing people's specific characters and stuff to life. And it's really surprising me that even the most like niche requests end up helping more people than I expect. Turns out you guys all like the same niche stuff. What do you know? All right, I think we're at a point now where I can just merge everything down and there's not going to be an issue. Let's go ahead and do that. And then remesh by union. Miguel says, I've been only doing requests these past few weeks now that folks are begging my next big project. It's been very satisfying, isn't it? It really feels like you're giving that one specific person like a direct present almost. I mean, I'm glad that, I mean, I share, same with you, you share it with your whole community. So it benefits everyone, but it is cool how like direct it is. It's amazing how much the details really brought this model to life. So over here, I kind of have like my halfway point of the detail work done. Sarah says, it's almost like we're a kind of cohesive subculture of nerds united by our similar tastes. Almost. I might have to smoosh this cape around to make sure it fits nicely on the base, but I think we're in that home stretch. All right, so right now I'm gonna turn off perspective, which means it'll be completely flat. There's no like distortion of the lens. And then we're gonna throw a mask on the bottom here. And this is just me checking that there's multiple points of contact with the base. Like I might as well have this touch. This as well. Like I don't want to print this cape just that far above the base. Just make it all touch. It makes life so much easier. There we go. Flip this over, see how we're looking. Yep. And I might do the same treatment on the back here. Nah, it's a little too high up, so maybe not. Like to stretch that down a little bit and then flatten it exactly. So I offer my stuff with two different versions. There is a no base version and the decorative. Technically you can resize things however you like, as is, but it does make it easier when there's a no base version. Foxy says, it is near to impossible to get some of the more unique models. Kit bashing and green stuff can only get you so far. That's true, and sometimes it can feel like a lot of work just for something that's gonna be in your campaign once. Speaking of, one of the requests I'm doing recently, I don't know if you guys might have heard of this before. I definitely hadn't. It's a greater Strix. It's a construct, and this is the only art I found of it online. It's a large artificial bird. It's crafted of wood, animal skin, burlap. Just kind of think of something that was crafted by a swamp witch to hunt ravens. So that's gonna be something. It's really, this top image is the only art I found of it. Kind of like a scarecrow. But I found a few people that have been looking for this mini, and someone finally requested it on my Patreon, so it's happening. Miguel says, I think for once I won't pretend I have no idea what 3D is, me normal viewer. This is development. I hope you're proud. I am proud, Miguel, and a little shocked. I feel like Jen is over your shoulder being like, you have to be good. I expect back to the regularly scheduled programming, Miguel. This isn't the Miguel that I know. Alright, so there's a little bit of a gap here. I didn't want that, so I'm gonna just smoosh. Very good. And remesh by union. I guarantee that's gonna cause a couple small errors. That's always really easy to remedy. Bam. We're gonna zoom in though and see if there's anything I need to smooth out manually. Nope, looks good. Perfect. Oh, this looks cool. The requester is gonna lose their mind. I know, I'm so excited. If any of you guys were hanging out when I did the Archgrim Reaper earlier this week, the same person requested that Angel of Death Reaper as this. So their campaign's about to get quite the little upgrade. Foxy says that looks real cool. Yeah, probably talking about the Greater Strix construct. Yeah, isn't that wild? I'm excited for it. And even people that don't know what it's from, because I didn't know what it was from, it's not Curse of Strahd, but it's something that kind of is similar to that. I'm sure they'll get a kick out of it. It's definitely one of those designs I find a little more intimidating, but I'll figure it out. That's partly why I put so much work into the Raven base, because I was using it for 2 models. I'm going to use it for the Eldritch Raven and for that Greater Strix. Alrighty. Alright, let's put this into my NZPR, get it sized up, and on a base. So this is just making sure it's about the right size. There's a couple factors I consider here other than just height. It's also like the size of their head. He is crouching a bit, so it's normal that he's going to be a bit shorter, but I want to make sure that he doesn't have like a tiny little pinhead. I also want to make sure it fits nicely on the base. That's critical. Go ahead and hide this character here as my reference point. Oh, perfect. We're not going to have any issues. Good, good, good. It's hanging off the base a little bit, so let's go and scoot that over, center it as much as possible. You'll notice I'll keep looking at it at a bunch of different angles just to make sure we're all square. I might shorten the sword just a touch. Gonna increase the intensity a bunch of the move brush and just scoot this on back. So I'm reducing it by about 20%. I really just, yeah, that doesn't affect the model very much, and I really don't want it overhanging that much because this will be a player character. I'm gonna scoot in this cape so I can scoot him even farther back on the base. A lot of scooting. All right. That's good. And now I can spin. Perfect, perfect. All right, I think we're all set, y'all. Let me put an interesting base in here, and then I'll be signing off pretty soon, but I'll be back tomorrow. Alright, just pick something that has a bit of like a sandy texture and some rocks. Nothing too crazy, just a little something interesting to paint. Just put something in the foreground of the model. Makes it a little neat. These rocks are kind of in the way, but I know that happens sometimes, so I always make it so they are deletable. Good job, past me. Thinking ahead. And I want to make sure there's no little gaps in between the feet and the ground, so I'm manually pulling this up to make sure it's as flush as possible. It will still print, it just makes it more fragile. And then one more flattening here. There we go. Perfect. Lots of little things to account for. One last inflate on the cape. And we're all set. Miguel says, gotta go. Post my work. Have a good one, bud. Yeah, thanks for checking in. Oh, people are gonna love this model. Cool. Doing a little screenshot and then throwing this into Mesh Mixer. So the actual release of this model will probably be in, oh, I'd say probably 2 weeks. It's gonna be this month still. Human wizard, no base. And then I merge on this decorative base here too. And then both versions are gonna be available on Patreon, plus the pre-supported one that I use when I test print it. I used to test print stuff because I really need to make sure it's gonna print. But once you hit somewhere around the 400 model mark, now close to 1,000, it's just more of a fun thing. I just like to see my work. Oh, I didn't name these correctly because these are going to be 2 different poses. So there's going to be an action and a casual. There we go. Went ahead and fixed that already. Amazing. Alrighty. Well, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. This is the end of the stream, but I will be back tomorrow. If you had a good time, you can like, subscribe, whatever. The one that really matters to me is my Patreon. That's with my bread and butter. Even if you don't donate, just joining the community for free, it all seriously helps. You can stay up to date with my work, and maybe one day you can become a patron and request your own model that I will sculpt on this very live stream. So yeah, the link to that can be in the description, top of the chat. I'm sure you guys are familiar with the drill. But just for super clarity's sake, I'm going to put it in the chat right now. Again, this is my bread and butter, and this is why I can do what I love every single day. But even you guys just being here, part of the stream is amazing too. All right, sappy ad out of the way. I think that wraps us up, and I'll see you guys tomorrow, okay? Bye.